Samantha or Melissa emailed me and said, "Where's my questions?"
If you have anything for me, send it to me, but I'll be looking for stuff.
So
thank goodness you have so many ladies that are willing to work with your sense, Greg.
okay.
And look, you had to have 4 of us, because if it was just one of us, I don't know if we could off-put you. All right, so as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are going to be completely unscripted. It worked out well last time, and we're hoping that it's going to work well again this time. My name is Sam Henley. I'm KE0LMY. I am your host for Ham Talk, sponsored by the Hamsters Weak Signal Group. And this is, I think, our 5th show. Wow, I can't believe we've been doing this for 5 months already. So let me introduce you to our cast, because I'm sure you've gotten an eye full over the last 4 months and you're ready for a little bit more of us. I'm going to start with Melissa.
Hi, Melissa Harpole, KI5ICQ.
And then, of course, we have Andrea.
Hello, Andrea Slack, Kilo 2 Echo Zulu.
And the one you've all been waiting for this whole time, Mr. Greg.
And here I is, N5XO. You know, I feel like I should sing it. And
we're having quite the fun time here today. In case you couldn't tell, Greg didn't start the recording till after we'd already teased him about the up and down on his chair. So we're going to have to cut something together so you guys can see everything that we've put him through over being too high, too low, too high, too low. See? But we're having a blast. It has been a stressful time for some of us. It has been a recovery time for some of us. So we want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. We are having a blast shooting this video, and we're having a fun time shooting all of the other segments that go into it. Greg does an amazing amount of work. He has to edit everything we send to him. He's about to strangle me this month because I sent him 13 minutes of raw footage, and I don't know what he's going to do to me because of that.
You're lucky
but
you live far away.
He has been incredibly patient this time, and I'm hoping that you guys are going to love the segment that I put together for ARES and the ICS 213 versus the radiogram. And I'm going to run out real quick to each of the ladies and Greg and see what they're going to be doing this month, and then we'll kick right into the show. Melissa, what do you have for us?
I have found at least 4 comments and questions from the past videos, so we'll be going through those.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. And Andrea, what are you going to be doing for us this month?
Well, it's springtime, so we've got an event coming up for spring that I'll be talking about.
I can't tell you how happy I am to hear the word spring. I'm so done with ice and snow. And Greg, what do you have for us this month?
We're going to be doing a how to get started in weak signal operating on VHF UHF this month. So I hope everybody enjoys that. We're going to just cover the very raw basics, what you need to get started, how to do it, and get everybody started. And just heads up, not next month, but the month after that, you'll get to see Melissa in action, because we're going to do a big tower project over here at my house. In fact, the tall tower behind my head, it's going to be stripped of all of its antennas, and we're putting a razor lift that'll raise everything up and down. There's a big H-frame quad going up, and some big dramatic changes on my antenna array back there. So, and Melissa stupidly volunteered to come over and help. She doesn't know that we figure she's the lightest one. We're sending her up to tower.
Yes, you are going to be the tower monkey.
We'll see how that goes.
That threat, every time somebody threatens to send me up a tower, I escape somehow. But Melissa, yeah.
There you go. We'll hoist you up.
Safety, people, safety. Well, anyway, we are so excited to bring you guys all of these segments and clips that we did for you, and we are super excited to hear from you. So remember to leave a comment down below. or send an email to Greg, which he'll also leave the email address that you can email questions to us, and of course hamshack pictures and a whole bunch of other stuff. Anything you guys are curious about, you can ask about us. As a matter of fact, I've been kicking around the idea of a segment where we actually have some time to give a little bit about our backgrounds and what we do and how we got into it. So that might be something that might come up in the future. Greg's just learning about this right now. I told him unscripted was the best, and I'm right this time.
Hey, I like it when somebody comes up with ideas.
Samantha, let's do some questions, some comments and questions here. This one, let's try for Greg, and this is coming from Mike McDonald in reference to, I think it was ham episode number 4, KM4 KMU, John. Mike McDonald says, I'd love to see a build video of his Jeep and antennas and how he has it built, and a video on N5XO's shack, tower, and antenna farm. Greg?
Okay. Well, here's the good news. I'm working with John after the last video, because we got a couple requests, and he's been sending me some data and stuff over, and we're actually putting together a segment where we're going to have a short video that I haven't decided yet if it'll be part of this show or it'll be a special, but either next month or during this month, in between, we will be putting on a presentation on the complete construction of his Jeep, because yeah, that's an awesome looking vehicle there.
Great, great. Second question, and this can go to Greg or Andrea, and this is again from Mike McDonald, and he says, again, I think this was from episode 4. So I'm watching this and I'm wondering, and this may be a stupid question, laugh out loud, do all 2-meter radios allow SSB and FM? I guess I've never really checked my radios to see if I can change the mode on them.
Well, most 2-meter radios that people have are generally FM only or digital voice modes. It's the multi-mode rigs that will have FM, single sideband, CW, and those are usually a little bit more expensive to get. So people generally don't have the multi-mode rigs unless they go looking specifically for that.
Yeah, good old mode radios needed.
Yeah, if you have one of those shack in the box rigs, though, the HF plus VHF, the HF has sideband, and that carries into the VHF and UHF portions of the radio as well. So a lot of people who haven't explored VHF, UHF, single sideband operation have a lot of those are the ones that have those radios that could get into it just by changing the mode on 2 meters.
Cool. Cool. Okay. Third question, and I'll direct this to Andrea. And this is from Mary, KG5GJP. She asks, what provides all the power in Andrea's mobile rover? Is there a second alternator or power system?
That's a good question, Mary, that I frequently get asked. I only have the main alternator, which is good for 140 amps, maybe 160. I've seen a couple different ratings on it. I do have a second battery in the back seat, which handles the peak load. So when I'm using the HF amp, which needs 80 amps peak, that battery handles it. The voltage drop, even though I have heavy gauge wires, the voltage drop from the front battery to the back battery is such that the one in the back seat takes most of the load, and the one in the front seat doesn't see that full load, and neither does the alternator. I do notice that when my batteries get a little weak, as I operate CW or even sideband, my headlights tend to get a little brighter and dimmer, modulate with the the RF there, which right now I've been noticing that, and that tells me it's time for some new batteries. I probably have to replace both of them.
Oh, that's a good indicator, though. All right, I have a fourth statement / question for Miss Samantha. This is coming from Jennifer. Jennifer is going to be taking her license test in April, and she says, Samantha, I watch all of your video and posts on Facebook and listen to you on here. I am amazed how much you do and how impressive you are to juggle so many balls at once with your career and your hobby. How did you get into amateur radio, and how much of your daily life is ham radio?
See, that's going to bring up a good reason for us to do this. Let's introduce everybody on Ham Talk. See? And believe it or not, I didn't see that comment ahead of time. It is a struggle for me sometimes, especially during the pandemic, because both of my EMAs are kicked up into high gear right now. Ham radio, I have to make an effort to make it a part of my even weekly life, let alone daily life. But the Benton County ARES, which I'm the emergency coordinator of, keeps me really engaged because we do our weekly ARES nets every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. and we have Echo Link on our tower. So you guys are welcome to come in. You can check bentoncountyares.org for all of the information. It is extremely important to me to keep amateur radio as a part of emergency communications, especially for our EMAs out in rural communities, rural counties, because we don't have a lot of hands. We don't have a lot of us who are here to do this job. And it means a lot that we're able to find the people who want to help us. So I am constantly reaching out and pulling people in and getting them either into amateur radio, or if they're already in amateur radio, getting them into where they can help us in the Emergency Operations Center and in the EMA. I just talked to the group for the Camden County ARES is getting stood back up on its feet again. Ernest Venus is the EC out here, and he is getting more and more people who are interested not only in amateur radio, but in helping us, because they see the struggle that we have in any kind of emergency situation with communications. So it's really a labor of love, and all of the things that I'm interested in tend to fold together, and it just becomes another tool in the belt. So thank you so much for the question. I appreciate that, because it is quite the effort, and it's nice to be recognized for something that doesn't often get a lot of recognition. So I also want to thank all of the operators that I work with, not only here on Ham Talk, but out in my counties. You guys are just amazing at what you do, and I appreciate you.
That's great. That's great. Just one last thing. It's like what Samantha was talking about earlier, that if you have any of your hamshack video pictures or pictures of your antennas, please send those to hamster-updates@144-200.net, and I'll try and remind Greg to put that in the comments for the video for the podcast.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for that. We always like to hear from our viewers, and we love your questions. We love answering any of the comments that you make and acknowledging you guys, because we do this for you. Okay, next up, we're going to have Andrea with her segment, something about a spring something or other. So let's see what she's got up for us.
It's springtime, and hopefully everybody's been looking forward to spring, getting outside, get some nice weather. But this also means it is time for the VHF Spring Sprints. These are mini little contests that run for a few hours. The first of these sprints starts Monday, April 5th, and this is the 2-meter sprint, 2 meters only, just a single band. And it will run from 7 p.m. till 11 p.m. local time. The following week, on Tuesday, April 13th, will be the 222 megahertz spring sprint, again from 7 p.m. till 11 p.m. local time. And then The third in the sequence will be on a Wednesday the following week. April 21st will be the 432 megahertz spring sprint, again run from 7 p.m. till 11 p.m. local time. What the heck is that? Not that again. Okay, that's better. I don't know what's happening with that. But let's get back to talking about the spring sprints. Saturday, May 1st, for the microwave sprint from 8 a.m. till 2 p.m. This is the only sprint that is 6 hours long. This one is for all frequency bands 902 megahertz and higher. The final sprint will be the 6 meter sprint. Many will be looking forward to that, even if you don't have VHF weak signal equipment, but have an HF plus 6 meter rig, will give you an opportunity to get on to 6 meters. And the 6 meter sprint will be Saturday, May 8th from 2300 Zulu to 0300 Zulu. This is the only of the sprints not based on local time, and that's because it's presumed that there's a good chance for wider area openings on the 6 meter band. My experience with these sprints is typically on the weeknight sprints, you'll find on 2 meters, 1¼ meters, 70 centimeters, that there'll be a fair amount of activity in the first 2 hours, kind of picks up in the second hour as some additional people are able to get on the air, but it tends to drop off for the last couple hours. The spring sprints are sponsored by the Central States VHF Society, and you can find their webpage by searching for CS VHFS or Central States VHF Society. If you search specifically for that and spring sprints, it will bring you to their spring sprints page. And from there, you can get a listing of the rules. There are only 2 categories of operation in the sprints: rover and a single operator. That's it. No multi-op, no high power, low power, just those 2 categories. The exchange for the sprints is just your 4-digit grid square, like in the ARRL VHF contest, except for the microwave sprint, which requires a 6-digit grid square, and that's because the microwave sprint uses distance-based scoring, and the 6 digits are necessary to get a reasonably good approximation of distances. This is a great time to work out any bugs on your equipment and get the dust off your equipment, getting ready for the June VHF contest. So I hope you're able to get on for the sprints, that you have a great time, and that's it for now. This is Kilo 2 Echo Zulu, roving reporter for Ham Talk.
Andrea, I'm not going to say a word about cats, but know that none, again, we reiterate, none were harmed in the making of anything Andrea does. We're not going to scare our cat people away. Thank you so much. All right. So now, away from all of the fun times, we get to the serious stuff, because you know that I had to tackle the serious stuff this month. I have a lot of requests from people who not only want to know the difference between an ICS 213, but they also want to know, and the radiogram, but they also want to know how you pass them. This month, I covered the differences between the two, the similarities, and why we use both to this day in both of the EMAs that I am part of. But if you guys want, in a future segment, I can actually do a recording of me passing a radiogram, maybe during one of our ARES nets. And if that seems like something that you're interested in, just drop a comment below and I'll cut that segment maybe next month, maybe the month after. We've gotten into a rotation now. So this month, we're going to go ahead and watch my segment on ICS 213s and ARRL radiograms. And then we'll go on out to Greg.
To you this month with a little bit of information. Well, we always have people who are used to doing emergency communications for groups like the Amateur Radio Emergency Service, or directly for the Emergency Management Agency or the Community Emergency Response Teams, we are constantly getting new people in who don't know simple things that seem really easy and rote to those of us who have been around for a little while. One of the things I want to talk to you guys about today is the forms that we deal with. Now, whether you're dealing directly with an organization that uses the ICS 213 or still uses the ARRL radiogram, you want to be able to fill out both of these, and you also want to know how to transmit it over the air. Now, the great thing about the ICS 213, as well as the other incident command forms that FEMA has put out, is that these can also be transmitted digitally as well as verbally. I think it's really great that we have the option to use both or either, because to me there are good things about the radiogram and there are really good things about the ICS 213. So let me cover a little bit about the differences between the two, and then we'll jump right into the similarities. The first thing that you'll notice, which I'll ask Greg, who does all of the video editing, to drop in a picture of the ICS 213 right here. And then I'll ask Greg to drop in a picture of the radiogram right here. You can also Google those two forms. But the really great thing about the differences between the two is that most often they're interchangeable. But there are a tremendous amount of little nuances that you're going to find when you start using these forms. The great thing about the radiogram, by far, hands down to me, is being able to quickly see the word count, because you also have the capability then of making sure that the exact message that you transmit over the air is being picked up on the other side, and it's not being garbled or turned into a huge version of the game telephone. I don't know if you guys played that when you were a kid, but if you set 20 kids in a class side by side and you whisper something to the first one, there will not be the same message at the other end of the 20 kids. It will be 100% different. And that same thing can happen when you're passing traffic over amateur radio. People will feel that they got the gist of what needs to be said and just pass that along. But of course, we all know sometimes it doesn't always get there right. So the most, I would say, helpful thing about the radiogram versus the ICS 213 is the word count. That is absolutely the best thing to me. A couple more things that I like on the radiogram that are not on the ICS 213 is the precedence and the HX. HX is delivery, so let's say that you get a message that they want delivered, but even if you can't deliver it, they say, okay, just set the message aside. Make an attempt, but if you can't get it through, just set it aside. Now that's more often than not the one that I use and the one that I've used consistently over the last few years, and that would be HX Golf G. There are a ton of HX codes, and that can tell you exactly what people want you to do if you are or are not able to go ahead and get the message through that you're asked to deliver. Of course, I love to see the numbers, and actually that's something that I think is missing that should be on the ICS 213. I absolutely love to be able to track the numbers and track the response to the number, so the radiogram gives you a fantastic way to do that. And if you go ahead and print out the ICS 213 and the radiogram ahead of time, you can walk right with me through these, because we're going to go right through all of them. Number is the number of message that you've written. So let's say you've written 20 messages in the year 2021 already. Well, this would be your 21st message number. So that's what you put right there in that number slot. Precedence, routine, or emergency, there are quite a few of those as well, which on our link on the Benton County ARES.org website or on ARRL's direct website, you can get a full breakdown of those. So you'll want to reference those. I'll ask Greg to put those down in the description below. All right, HX, as we said, that's the delivery. What do you expect them to do if they try to deliver it and they can't, or if they are successful in delivering? So you'll want to put your code into there. Station of origin, that's you. You are the station of origin if you are passing the message. So you put your call sign in there. All right, check is the number of words in your message. So you won't fill that in until after you write your message out on the blanks. Place of origin is where your boots are physically standing when you go to transmit that message. It doesn't matter where your home QTH is or anything like that. You need to know where your boots are when you transmit that message, and that's what needs to go in that place of origin. Then time filed and date, of course, will be self-explanatory. The two will either say, if it's to another amateur radio operator, you could drop their call sign in there. If it is to an EOC, like in an emergency situation and you're working in the Emergency Operations Center as the radio communications, it could be from one EOC to another. You could put that in there. Or if it's actually meant to be delivered to a person, a specific person, you can put their name, and if you'd like, you can put their address. And then down here it gives a space for a telephone number, so you can put that in there as well. Then we'll skip past this part over here for a moment. We'll come right down to the message. When you write a message on a radiogram, you make sure that each of the words goes on a different line, as well as any punctuation. So if you say, "We are doing well," period, you need to make sure that the period has its own line. And that goes for a question mark. If it's a query, you need to put the question mark on its own line. So I have a lot of people ask, well, what about if we are doing something like acronyms or anything like that? For instance, ARES. Well, you can say ARES, ARES, put it on one line, and just reiterate when you verbally say it, ARES, Amateur Radio Emergency Service, ARES, one line. After you get done writing your message out, then you'll count up how many words it is, which is really awesome on the radiogram because they do 5 words per line. So you can quickly and easily find out, you know, how many words you have in your message. And of course, the received from, date, and time, you'll want to go ahead and put those in there. And then on the other end of this message, you want confirmation that the message is received when you verbally say it over the radio. So the other person's information will go in these areas where you'll say the radio message was received at, and then you'll fill in the station, phone number if you have it, name, street address, city, state, and zip. And then the information can go down here on the send line. So that is the great thing in the outline of what the radiogram does. The FEMA form, ICS 213, went on to make it easier because in high-stress situations, you're not necessarily going to want to stay color in the lines, maybe we'll say it like that. You want to be able to write things down quickly, and though you want to do it accurately, sometimes using shorter sentences or using smaller words would be much better for getting your information across. You want to use up as little bandwidth as possible when you have to pass messages during emergencies because there's always going to be more traffic, and you want to clear those frequencies as fast as possible. So there are some times when the ICS 213 is a lot better. For instance, the incident name is one of the very first things on the ICS 213, and that is marked as optional. What I would also say, since this one doesn't have a number on it, is I would also assign a number. That way you can keep track of which incident this message was related to and the number that you were on during the incident. And I would maintain it to the incident in this case. All right, 2, you're going to put the name and the position from your name and position. And then subject, if you need 20 cots at the church on Main Street, then you will put equipment request or resource request, and you'll put that it's for cots. And then the date and time are self-explanatory over here. Now the message section, that is where you'll write in what you want. Now what works really great on the ICS 213 is you can do it in bullet point form, and that makes it really fast, really clean, really easy to understand in a high stress situation. So that's what I do, is use a bullet point form. 20 cots, this address, here's your point of contact. And then you can move right on down. You'll also get the message approved by, name, signature, and position title. That could be someone like the director of the EMA, if they're the ones that are asking you to pass the message, or whoever may be on scene. Now, the great thing about the ICS 213 as opposed to the radiogram is that you actually can write the reply on there. So it does not need its own because this is all contained in one sheet. That is fantastic. So the reply, you can write in there essentially the ETA and information on maybe who's going to be delivering it. That way they know if it's coming on a Penske truck or something visible like that. You can write in there the description and the information that they give you. Replied by, and you'll get the name, position, and you can't necessarily get the signature, of course, and you'll want to put the date and time that you received that. So the similarities are really self-explanatory on these. Of course, you're going to want to know who you're talking to, and you're going to want them to know who they're talking to. You're going to want to know dates and times. You're going to want to know the gist of the information that needs to be passed. I feel that there is a tremendous use for both of these, and so in the EMAs that I work in, both in Benton County and Camden County, Missouri, you will find both of these because there are situations where the radiogram is far better and there are situations where the ICS 213 is far better. So it's, give yourself the opportunity to use either one, and don't close yourself down to just also grabbing a random piece of paper that you need to jot down notes on or you need to talk to yourself on, because you can always transcribe them to an official document or an official form later. We keep a stack of the general message here. See, you can see, and these ones actually have the duplication, which is fantastic. If you can get your hands on the duplicate forms, do that. But all in all, I would say that both of the forms have a place, and I had heard talk that the radiogram might be discontinued. I don't feel it should be. And as long as I can find the file, I'm going to keep giving it to the amateur radio operators I work with so that they have the opportunity to use it. It is by far one of the best forms that I deal with and that I have to see on a regular basis. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about the forms and what we use them for, what they require on them. I think in a future blip or version or video that I do for Ham Talk, I'll actually record me passing a radiogram. That way you can hear what it sounds like. If you guys like that idea, feel free to leave comments on the video down below, or you can email Greg directly. He'll provide the email address that you can reach us on. And of course, you can always find me on my QRZ page, KE0LMY. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Can't wait to talk to you again.
That was pretty informative, Samantha. Thank you very much. And I hope it was beneficial to people who are interested in message and traffic handling and emergency communications. Let's take a look at VHF UHF weak signal operating. Before we introduce it and describe how to build a basic station, let's discuss what it is and what it's not. First thing is it's not FM communications on 2 meters or 6 meters and up at all. It's not simplex, it's not repeater operations, it's not satellite, and it most definitely is not DMR, D-Star, fusion, and everything. What it is and primary function is single sideband and CW. And then some of the new digital modes like FT8 are making big inroads into VHF UHF weak signal operating. It encompasses antenna to antenna communications, meteor scatter, EME, and everything. So it's a lot of excitement. What it is not also is QRP. A lot of people hear the word weak signal and they assume it's QRP operating. Nothing could be further from the truth. Weak signal operating can be anywhere. People are running anywhere from 50 to full legal limits, with most people running in the 200 to 400 watt range. And then a lot of the larger stations like myself and others are running 1,000 watts to full legal limit. Which is pretty typical for a lot of us. It is horizontally polarized, upper sideband, and typical use and advantage to it is you're going to be operating in the 170 to 250 mile range almost every single day of the week. Okay. So you're already out talking 90% of the repeaters out there, unless they're on a massive hilltop someplace. So that's the biggest advantage. For example, Andrea, she lives in Brennan outside of Houston area. She's about 230 miles from me. She's, of course, got her mobile roving station, and her and I can pretty much talk anytime. She's joined in our weekly hamster net on 144, 180, and she's able to get in there and operate with me with no problem, even though we're 220 plus miles from each other, and she's mobile, so she's not got high altitude antennas. My station, I typically running a KW with mass mounted preamps and extremely low loss coax, and we'll get into that in a minute. I am typically in the 250, 300 mile range most days on there. However, you get some tropo openings, E-skip and stuff, and the sky's the limit. 500, 600 miles is not a bad return usually. My longest contact is just over 1,600 miles on 2 meters. And about 1,400 on 432 and 23 centimeters. And I just am now adding 900 megahertz to my weak signal operating. At my station, I can do 6 meters, 2 meters, 220, 432, 1296, and we're in the process of adding 900. So we'll be full range right there. Weak signal operating can be one of the most addictive, rewarding, and frustrating aspects of amateur radio. It's addictive because of the thrill of making a contact at the noise level by reflecting your signal off of an ionized trail of a meteor, catching a sporadic E opening, tropo, bouncing your signal off the moon. It just can't be beat. And that's what weak signal is defined as. Weak signal is a low incoming signal to noise ratio. We're operating right above the noise floor many times, and that's where it comes in and defined as a weak signal. Anybody can operate weak signal with a basic radio, 50, 100 watts, 12, 13 element or greater antenna, Yagi up as high as you can get it, and low loss cable. But if you take time to properly build your station, it's going to be extremely rewarding. Okay, I'm going to throw a couple of quick examples here real quick before we get started in what you need and how to build it. All right, right here is a contact. It's 213 miles with Byron W5FH.
Yeah, okay. N5XO W5FH and Echo Mike 21, about 3 miles from Crockett on the northeast side. And I'm pretty much looking your way with the antenna. I've got it real close to you. And I'll take another listen at the beacon here shortly. But I know I was copying it right there while I was listening to you, this other transmission.
DQE, and it's 822 miles.
Byron is 236 miles from here.
All right, so you see what we can do with single sideband operating, CW, etc. So let's get into what we need to do and how to go about getting it set up. There is a large array of radios that you can use. Primarily the more affordable ones and the easier ones to get into, because it's one radio meets a lot of needs, is your shack in the boxes, such as the TS2000, the ICOM 9100, the Yaesu 991A, and a few other shack in the box type radios out there that do HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and usually 432. Then as you get more serious, there are the dedicated radios to this. Most of them are older. However, ICOM just came out with the about a year and a half ago with the 9700, and it is 2 meters, 432, and 1296. It's just missing 6 and 220 to get you operating. But again, almost all HF rigs today come with 6 meter capability, and you're hard pressed to find an actual radio with 220. Other options as you get more advanced and get a little bit more dedicated to this portion of the hobby is transverters. There's multiple manufacturers, Elecrafter, Down East Microwave, SSB makes some high-end ones there. Mechanical, electrical makes some very good high-quality transverters. And you can plug those into quite a few different model HF rigs. I have 2 flex radios in my shack that I run transverters through, and that's my setup anymore. I started out weak signal with the TS2000, then I moved to the Yaesu 736s, and then I jumped up to the ICOM 9100 for a while, and now I'm locked and loaded on transverters, and I'm happy. The advantage to the transverter is the fact that it is a dedicated monoband radio, and just like you want a monoband antenna, and the reason for monoband antennas and monoband radios is there's no compromise. It's all devoted to that band, and you're not compromising the design trying to do multiple things from one device. So gain and everything is much more important. After you've gotten the radio, you can get by with 50, 100 watts, but if you're gonna really enjoy yourself on this hobby, you're gonna be successful on it, look to try to get something in the 160 to 200 and 300 watt range, and you'll have a lot more success being heard, getting your signal out on that. So combine that with the amp and the radio, but you can get started and you can make contacts with 50 or 100 watts. All right. Antennas. If you look behind me here, you're going to see just on my left shoulder, there is the tower. That's my 6 meter LFA. And right above that is my 2 meter antenna. And then above that is my 2 meter omnidirectional. Those are stacked together, phased as one antenna. And you can put up to 4 of those and get pretty good gain. But that's omnidirectional. And that's what I run my shack, and I run our weekly net on 144, 180 Sundays at 7 p.m. Put a commercial in there. I'm shameless. On that, I run most of the net with that, and we have check-ins up to about 160 to 200 miles typical. And I can run pretty much the entire net right off of those 2 Omni antennas. So, that's my setup. But if you take a look at the screen here, there's another example of an Omni 2 meter antenna. And then you've got one of my older VHF towers, which are still active. And on that tower, I'm actually running a stack set. The bottom antenna, as you look at this, is a 15 element. And then the second from the top is the second 15 element. Those 2 antennas are phased for 30 elements aimed out. And I use those when we're really working some distance. The band conditions are not real strong and everything. I typically stay on the single one right there behind me, or the Omnis, because I've got a little bit wider pattern and everything. These tend to be a laser pointer. Right above the bottom, the second from the bottom, that's my 220. And then right above that is my 432. And then the very top antenna is a 55 element loop Yagi for 1296. And if you look at the far antenna to the tower to the left, you're going to see another 4 45 element loop Yagis for 1296. And there's a 900 that's up and ready to start going up. So you can run pretty much anything on antennas. If you've got a good area, you've got good altitude, tower height's important on the omnidirectionals, 2 meters, 6 meters, and even 220, you can get away with running omnis such as those. Those are made by Tom, fellow hamster member, K5VH, and they do a great job. They're well built, and you can look him up on QRZ and go pick up some antennas from him, ready to go. They're very good performing antennas. In fact, I honestly think they're some of the best omnidirectional performing antennas out there. For the antenna, let's just, for our sake of conversation today, we're going to focus on 2 meters and 432. The other bands, you start getting a little bit more selective on there. I really recommend Yagi is a minimum of 13 elements if you can, and again, as high as you can get it on there. On 432, I consider 17 elements a minimum. And again, this is designed for maximum success. The most important aspect, though, and the most important part of your shack, and this is true whether you're operating FM, simplex, repeaters, satellite, or weak signal, is your feed line. If you want to be successful, have a strong station that's reaching out, can hear and produce good signals and everything, get your loss down to a minimum. Some feed lines that I recommend. Now, I will tell you, Ruth and I, KE5MHJ, my wife and I, our rules in our shack is 1 dB loss max from antenna to radio, okay? And that includes connectors, relay switches, pass-throughs, amplifiers, lightning protection, everything. So it goes. My 2 meter and 220 and 6 meter antennas are all on 3/4 inch hard line, and it's 110 foot runs, 120 foot runs. 432 is on inch and 5/8. 900 is on inch and 5/8. And then my 23 centimeters is on 2 1/4. So you can see I take it very serious line loss, but I hear and get out really well, and can make some fantastic and have made fantastic contacts. So, you know, there's a lot that you can really do and have a lot of fun on that. Now, you don't need to get that carried away. Baby steps. You know, this portion of the hobby can be extremely expensive, or you can go into it on a good budget. You don't have to be as fanatical as I am. I'm one of those people that just don't believe in compromise on my equipment, whether it's my cars, my radios and stuff. I don't like compromise. I want to maximize my abilities to the best. But some good hardline or coax runs, if your runs are under 100 feet for 6 meters, 2 meters, and even 432, I would recommend LMR 600, 400. 400 will be pretty good. 600 would be best. That's actually close to 1/2-inch hardline in performance. And some coax that we recently started using, and I use for all my jumpers, is Melosi and Poloni. Poloni and Melosi. I may not be saying that quite right, but I'll put a link up at the end of this for that. It's equivalent to just almost the LMR 600, but it's extremely ultraflex. In other words, if you were running that coax, your loss would be extremely low and you could go all the way to the antenna. You don't need to go like on mine, the hard line goes up to the top of the tower into relay switch boxes. And then I've got LMR 600 ultraflex jumper cables coming down from the antennas to connect into the hard line. This could go all the way up. So you'd actually lower your loss by not having some connectors in there. Okay. So the biggest thing and the most important thing in setting up your station is to get the most gain from your antenna and the lowest line loss that you can afford, basically. The adage of the ham with the $10,000 radio and the $10 antenna has a $10 ham station, and the ham with the $10,000 antenna system and the $10 radio has a $10,000 ham station is extremely true when you get into VHF, UHF, weak signal operating. So put your maximum effort into the antennas and the feed line, and you will be extremely happy. We've got a ham south of San Antonio that is running 22 elements on 2 meters, runs pretty low loss cable, and he was at 50 watts for a long time, and he has worked numerous states, averages about 250 miles with no problems. So, you know, put your time and energy into the antenna and the feed line. Just a couple of things here I wanted to just show you a little bit. This antenna on the top left here, this is actually a tower for K5QE. He runs a massive station, primarily for contest. But this is just a whole row of 6-meter antennas, and they've got an antenna switch. He's got, I think, 8 going towards Houston, and then he's got another 8 that you can see in the background right there going towards Dallas. And when they're operating the contest, they can flip a switch and go from Houston to Dallas instantly. And then he's got a stacked set of 6 meters at the top of the tower on a rotor to come pick up the rest of us people that don't live in Dallas or Houston on that. To the right, that's actually my tower setup. It's a few years back. You'll see I actually had 2 26 element or 13 element times 2 for 26 element verticals. I am still, even though I'm into VHF, UHF's weak signal sideband, I still enjoy FM simplex operating, and I spend a lot of time on FM 146.5 too as well. So I had that. Those have been down though for years as everything geared up more towards single sideband operating. And just to give you an idea, you know, the old days you had to have 20, 30 antennas, massive arrays, lots of power and everything. With the new digital modes, you can actually work 2-meter EME with a single Yagi aimed at the moon, a couple 100 watts in the digital modes, and be successful. You're going to work the bigger EME stations, but that can open a very fun window for you. So there's a lot to do. Meteor scatter, 500-600 watts, a 5-6 element Yagi on 6 meters, and you can work meteor scatter almost every morning, voice, and have a lot of fun. And again, on 2 meters, 220, expect about 160 to 220 miles as a daily limit for your conversations. So you're not going to do that on a repeater, or you're sure not going to do it on FM. Last month, there's a video. I worked Dale KA5YEU down in Alice, Texas. Him and I talked. We had absolutely no problem on single sideband with, I think we were running 250 watts out of my station, and he was running 100 watts out of his. We had no problems talking 170, 180 miles on single sideband. We switched over to FM. We stayed on the same antennas, the same power, and neither one of us could hear each other. I dialed up finally to right at 1,000 watts, and he could finally hear me breaking his squelch. So you're not going to do that on FM without tropo band opening. Whereas on single sideband, Dale and I can talk every day of the week, 24 hours a day. So, you know, that's what it is about, and it's a lot of fun. And if you want to learn more, go to www.144.200.net and check out some of our links on the hamster net. And if you're got sideband capability and horizontal antennas, join our net every Sunday at 7 p.m. on 144.180 upper sideband, horizontal, aimed towards Echo Lima 09. And we'll be happy to have you join us and help. And email me at N5XO. I'm good on QRZ, so go to QRZ for my full email. And email me, and I'll be happy to help you get going, get started, pick some equipment, locate some equipment, and get you started. All right, back over to the group.
All right, so we hope that you guys all enjoyed this episode of Ham Talk. We do our absolute best to at least entertain you. So we hope you found at least one part of it entertaining. Please join us next month. We'll find something entertaining to talk about. And we would, again, like to thank our sponsors, the Hamsters Weak Signal Group, because without their support, this would not be possible at all. Thank you to Greg, Melissa, Andrea. You guys are all a fantastic part of this group, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on with us. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you drop them below, right down there. Greg's going to load up the area with links and everything else for you if you need further information from us, and we love to hear from you, so feel free to interact with us. I know you can find me on Facebook. Just search my call sign and you'll find me. As for everybody else, are you guys on Facebook? Can they reach you?
Yep.
On Facebook.
On Facebook is Greg, and then N5 spelled out XO. So I'm easy enough to find. I know Andrea's there. No,
I'm on there. I'm kind of locked down a little bit though,
yeah,
but I'm there.
I don't blame you.
Mine's also locked down. If I just have to know, you got to message me, let me know your call sign or something. Anybody who has a call sign, I approve, but unless you do
Hey,
that.
we can understand that in this day and age. You can never be too careful, but we enjoy hearing from you guys, and you can always send an email. Greg will drop the email in the link below and the links below. So feel free to get in touch with us. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
y'all have a good one.
Okay.